and welcome to this episode of Musically Cogitating, a podcast about the relevance and importance of living and contemporary music of all kinds, and about how that music and everything else impacts our everyday lives. I am your hopefully, probably, maybe, possibly favorite podcast host, Ciyadh. Thank you so much for joining me here on yet another Wednesday. And as always, any important and relevant links will be in the show notes. Some of my favorite podcasts take time to do a little bit of reflection at the end of every year. And so I thought, why not do that again? So I did a 2020 wrap-up episode last year, and so I'm going to do a 2021 wrap-up episode for you today. And I'm a person who loves like goals and themes and thinking about the new year and thinking about the person that I want to be next year, the podcasts that I want to make. And so I'm going to share that with you here today. I didn't listen back to the episode that I did last year, but I did take some time to go back over my notes and I think the post that I wrote about it. And so I looked at the things that I wanted to accomplish for the podcast in 2021, and it basically boiled down to just a few things. And so the first thing was I wanted to continue to post consistently. So at the time, I'd only done, I think, like 7 episodes or something like that. So we're in the 30s now, which is great. And yes, I did take a break in there, but you know what? It was okay. And it all worked out. And I definitely needed to take a break so that I could finish my school stuff. And so since that's done, we are back to our, regularly scheduled programming. So I'm going to call that a win. I wanted to do some interviews, which I did. And, this is not an interview only podcast show. And I wanted to make sure that it was kind of spread out and with some people that I really, really wanted to talk to. And so in that way, it's been successful and I've enjoyed that. I wanted to continue sharing on other places and social media. So that worked. I wanted to launch some merch and products, which we did do, which is still available. Link in the show notes. And I wanted to read some books, because reading books is really fun for me and really important to me. And so we did that. And while I may not have hit the sort of numerical goal that was attached to each of the things I talked about, I am really happy with how things turned out. And people keep listening, and that's really important to me. That's probably that's one of the most important parts, is that, you keep listening. And so as long as you keep listening, I'm going to keep doing that. And that's all that really matters to me. So those were the goals and kind of how I ended up achieving them or not achieving them or just ignoring them altogether. So what did I learn in 2021? Well, I learned a lot of lessons, but I'm going to stick to the ones that are relevant to this podcast for this particular episode. So I learned that I really, really, really love podcasting, and it's something that I really look forward to doing. It's something that I want to continue getting better at, that I want to pursue even further and just keep doing. So this podcast has also really helped me to rediscover my love of listening to music. And I've always, been a person who's listened to a lot of music, but not as much as I have maybe wanted to. And so in that way, the podcast has really helped me to learn and rediscover that love of music, that love of going to the record store and buying records and clicking through things and listening to different things. It's really, really helped me with that, because I have a place to share about the music that I listen to every other week. And that excites me, and it's something that I really look forward to. It's also allowed me to have fun. So, the podcast is a lot of fun for me. And so I've learned that I really, really like, having fun doing this. And I've also learned that I have a lot of ideas, which is good. most of the time. Sometimes I have too many ideas and I want to act upon them all at the same time. So I guess that's a lesson that I've learned as well. But yes, I've learned that I have a lot of ideas. And so I'm going to work on figuring out how I can implement those ideas, because I think I'm starting to hit like a stride with topics and the things I want to talk about. And so I want to continue with that. And I learned in 2021 how to be able to do that, how to get better at that. And that has also, of course, been a lot of fun. So this wouldn't be a show about the podcast in a really meta way, no pun intended there, without talking about what I want to do next year in 2022. The main goal is to make more podcasts. So yes, that's kind of two meanings, if you will. So yes, make more episodes of this podcast, the one that you're listening to, Musically Cogitating, and then make some new shows, because I really like podcasting and I want to keep doing it. And there are some other topics that I want to explore, on my own as a solo podcaster, but also with a host, hint, hint, wink, wink. And so those shows will be coming out in the next few months. And of course, you'll hear about them and all of that stuff. But I learned that I want to do more shows and podcasts. So that's one of the goals for 2022. I want to do some more writing connected to music and of course connected to the podcast. So more blog posts, and that'll come over time. I don't really have a specific goal for the number of posts that I want to post connected to the blog for the podcast, but I do know that I want to do more writing that is in some way related to the show and the topics that I talk about on this show. So that is one goal that I'm going to try to work towards. Another one is to keep up with the merchandise. So we launched several things. We launched t-shirts, pins, bookmarks, stickers, and all that cool stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. I really like wearing it and showing it off. And you all have been really, really supportive in purchasing it. So I want to keep up with that stuff. And I don't know if I'll launch anything new next year, but I definitely want to continue sharing that and spreading the good word about the awesome merch that we have over here at this podcast. So another goal is I want to read some more books. So reading books is, yes, like I said, a lot of fun. It's really important to me. And I want to do a few more book episodes than I was able to do in 2021. And so I think I've got like a plan and a strategy for making sure I get those book episodes in. So that's one of the goals, is to just do the book episodes and talk about them. And I got some playing around to do with how to do that in a solo format, because some books are long. They have lots of words and lots of pages. And so I don't want to, talk about the same book for 3 hours in one episode. So that might mean splitting it up, or that might mean, just really taking the highlights and synthesizing that in that way. But I'm definitely going to read some more books next year on the podcast. I want to share the show with more people, and because it's fun and I like hearing from people, and it would be awesome if more people were able to listen to this, to know it existed, and to hopefully enjoy it. So one of my goals is to make sure that I am sharing the show with more people. And so that involves probably telling more people in my life that this podcast exists. And so I'll work on that, because I don't know that every single person that I know knows that I have a podcast, because I probably haven't told them all. So I'm going to work on telling people that I have a podcast, and then I'm going to have some more podcasts and sharing it with them, because that's something that I want to do. And above all, my ultimate goal for 2020 is to have fun. 2022 is to have fun and enjoy the journey. So I've learned that this is just so much fun for me. It's really exciting, and I really enjoy whatever journey that I'm on. So those are all of the things that I want to do next year in 2022. And I'd encourage you to do the same, to think about what you've learned. You don't have to be like me and write them down and then, post a blog post about it and then also make a podcast about it. You can just think about it, take some time, put on your favorite record, spin a new album like I do, like I've done, and think about, how was last year? What did you learn? And what do you want to do next year? It doesn't have to be, a really deep thing, although for me and many people it is way deeper probably than it needs to be. But it can just be, a little lighthearted activity that you do, something that you think about, when you're driving or when you're walking. And it can be fun, and it can help you with your life and hopefully help you to be the person that you want to be, or to do the things that you want to do. And goals don't have to be, huge, giant. One of my goals is, aside from the things that I've told you, is to just make sure that I go outside every day. And that's a really simple goal, but I've noticed that in 2020 and 2021, I haven't always done the best with going outside every day. Even though I will exercise inside, I'm going to make an effort to make sure I get outside every day. So it can be something as simple as just making sure I step outside of my front door, or it can be like one of my goals this year was to finish school, which, yes, I achieved, and we'll talk about in a show in early next year. So I'll definitely do a school education recap here pretty soon. But just think about your goals, think about your year, and I'd encourage you to do that in a fun way. It doesn't have to be, intense. It can just be fun, lighthearted, and I hope that it helps you, change your life, or at the very least, just do something, give you something to do. So, since this is a show about music, I wanted to recommend something for you to listen to. And this week's recommendation is new to me. I was doing as I do in one of my favorite record stores here in Austin, and I saw, the cover of this record, and I was like, I'm going to buy that. So I did, and I listened to it, and it's an album by Durand and The Indications, and this particular track that I'm recommending is called Ride or Die. But I highly, highly recommend that you go listen to the entire album. It is so soulful and so funky in the best way, and it's like, when someone says, hey, I want to listen to funk, like this is what like 21st century funk music should sound like, but it also gives, calls you back to the 70s and the like really funky, really groovy, we're jiving on this record. So all that to say is please listen to the record. It's really good. Don't forget to follow the podcast on social media and the website, and that if you are subscribed, you will receive a newsletter from me sometime soon with some additional bonus content from the show. So make sure you sign up for that if you would like to receive that. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please give us a like and a rating. And ding, 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 if you're listening to this on Spotify, you may or may not be able to also give a rating. So if that is available to you on Spotify, please give the show a rating. I would really appreciate it. And if it's not up, it will be up soon. So I did learn that in podcasting news. You can also support the show by, buying me a book, buying us a book. It helps me to keep the show running, keep the lights on, keep the podcast coming, keep the coffee flowing, and all that. But it really is helpful if you donate or if you purchase any one of the kind of products and merch that we have. So yeah, I really appreciate that. That's all I have for you today. I will be back next year in 2022, so in our regular 2-week interval, with the next episode of the Musically Cogitating podcast. Until then.